Hey everyone, Nick Espinoza, your Chief Security Fanatic here, and today I actually want to talk about a 6-year Russian misinformation campaign that you never heard about that just came to light. Now, this is coming from a couple of different sources, but I'm cribbing mostly from The Verge here, which had an excellent article on this the other day. And here's what's going on. So for basically 6 years, a mysterious group used forged documents and basically a whole network of burner accounts to spread misinformation promoting Russian national interests. And this is according to a new report from an organization called Graphica. Now, they dubbed this secondary infection. And basically, this campaign spanned a number of online platforms, starting with the Russia-based Live Journal in 2014, which I actually didn't know was based out of Russia, and then it moved to Twitter and YouTube later that year. And then in the years that followed, it also shifted its campaign into Reddit, Medium, and even the user-generated portion of BuzzFeed, interestingly enough. Now, that said, these reports span basically more than 2,500 pieces of content posted across 7 languages in more than 300 different forums, websites, and social networks. According to the researchers, the content tended to promote themes that basically aligned with Russian national interest during this time period, which included Ukraine and how they were unreliable, essentially hostility to NATO intervention, and even personal attacks on critics of the Russian government. Now, even through all of this, another thing that they really went after, and I found this to be rather interesting, was they actually went after WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency, which instituted a 4-year ban on Russian involvement in international sports like the Olympics, when we actually found out that they were doctoring lab results because, they were doping. So here we are. And I think, though, the most interesting thing of this, as I'm reading through The Verge and Graphica and the others, is that this appears to be a failed experiment by the Russians. So despite the broad scope and the 6 years of this campaign, few of these posts actually reached a broad audience, which really suggests that the groups coordinating this effort may not really have succeeded. And to quote the report, if secondary infection was aiming at viral impact, it failed. So, for example, in many instances, users have appeared to dismiss these troll posts as untrustworthy, primarily because if you're looking at them, they had poor grammar or idiosyncratic political agendas, all this kind of stuff. And to again quote the report, repeatedly in the course of this research, Graphica came across comments below secondary infection stories that questioned or ridiculed them or called them out as Russian trolls. And again, according to researchers, it is therefore especially important to maintain a sense of perspective when crafting responses to such online operations. Now, it would appear that the Russians obviously learned from this attempt and honed that message, especially if we were looking, at the 2016 election, because we do know that the Internet Research Agency, which is essentially the cutout misinformation troll farm that is controlled by the Russian government, really upped their English language dialect, the American dialect of English, to really become more effective at crafting messages that would basically circumvent the poor grammar and all of that. They also became a lot more effective at leveraging social media. You will note that I didn't really mention Facebook, for secondary infection here, but the troll farm, the Internet Research Agency, really leveraged Facebook and Twitter much more effectively, crafting messages, using the advertising, spending about, I believe it was $100,000 to $150,000 in messaging that was able to strategically reach millions of Americans across the United States, during critical election period times in 2016. And so I think that they're upping the game. And like any good product, for lack of a better term, it has to evolve. It has to be honed into something effective. And Russian intelligence is definitely taking that to heart and showing us that they can, because we are continuing to see not anything really from secondary infection, which seems like a failed attempt, but from the Internet Research Agency and similar outfits that are able to craft that message effectively and quote-unquote speak American, if you will, using our dialogue as opposed to sounding British, for example. So I think it's something to look at. I think it's something to consider. But understand that as we discover these things, we know that these things go back years and they're not going to stop. And as we are sitting in, let's say, a politically charged time in the middle of an election year, you better believe that these organizations are going to be running at us full steam. It's important that we really look at this skeptically. It's important that we check our facts and our sources. And it's really important that we just keep a good amount of vigilance in our own brains when it comes to this. Trust sucks. I've said that multiple times. And in this case, check your sources because they could be Russian. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, everyone.